let's talk about like uh this is a bit of a all-encompassing topic, but like managing fatigue in your training, and then also maybe working that around like your monthly cycle, because I think like Beck Mason said that uh, you're probably more focused on that than anyone she's ever met, in terms of like being conscious around like your training throughout the month
Yeah.
changes quite a lot. Can you talk about that area a little bit more?
Yeah, 100%. So when I was cycling, I had probably a period of 10 years where I didn't have a period. Um, I had red S, which is basically underfueling, overtraining, like always doing, eating like the least amount of possible to fuel my sessions. That's just like the mentality how it was at the time. Like it was, I'd say like it was a disordered eating habits for a long period of time. And then once I recognized that and I changed everything and my period started to come back, I realized just like what an impact your like monthly cycle has around your training and racing. For me, it was like, say if I was, because I'd race a lot, obviously every weekend, I'd have maybe 2 or 3 weekends where everything would feel great. I could feel like I'd hit my numbers in training. I'd be going really well in the races, and every fourth week, I'd just like have a totally like disastrous race. I wouldn't perform how I normally would. And, like, I was just beating myself up so much thinking, like, "Why is this happening?" Didn't understand it, and then finally it clicked that kind of when I looked at my monthly cycle and, like, my hormone pattern, I realized that that was always in my luteal phase, so, like, just before my period, and, I think that was all quite it wasn't that talked about a few years ago, but now obviously people recognize this a lot more, and I think a lot more women do take notice of it, but I think it's, something that coaches should talk about with their athletes, and they should recognize that some people might struggle with that and kind of adapt your training sometimes, to kind of help you deal with that so that you're not beating yourself up when you're not going well for a week and you kind of just back off a little bit and, train when you do feel good and race hard when you do and kind of accept that I might not feel my best at other parts of the month, but I can still give my best.
Are you, or is she, like consciously reducing, like is it the intensity you're reducing, say during that week? Is it volume? Is it just like not beating yourself up if you're not hitting the numbers? How is it approached?
I think it's always like when I was working with I'm not actually working with Bex anymore because she's obviously gone to Team Proven and things
Uh,
changed a little bit. But obviously from the last 12 months, you know, it'd be like a case of me saying, look, I don't feel great this week. I'll try and give what I can, but I probably won't hit, these intensities, but I'm gonna try and still give full effort and see what it is. Um, and also just sometimes, decreasing the volume a little bit if I'm feeling tired because I feel like at that time in the month, like your body can only handle so much stress. And when I've got training, the kids, work, like that's a lot going on. Whereas if I just back off a little bit with my training, it'll reduce the stress and like just help me get through that week a little bit better.
okay. And just touching on the red S a little bit more, which is relative energy deficiency in sport, I
Or
think,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Uh, how did that come about in the first place? Was like weight a factor in your sport, in the cyclocross, that you were consciously trying to stay light and therefore like not consume too many calories? Is that how it sort of manifested?
Yeah, it was I think it was over a period of time. It was like I remember when I was about 18, 19, I'd been doing mountain biking and cyclocross, and I was kind of at a point where I was either going to go down the mountain bike path or go on the track. And one of the coaches had said to me within British Cycling, "You're too big to be a mountain biker. You're going to go on the track." And that word big at 18 years old, like really stuck with me, whether he meant it as though like you're fat or whether he meant it as though like you just more suited to the track at this time. And it really stayed with me. And I think it planted a little seed in my head. And then like the next few years, it was kind of just a thing I was always like conscious of like what I was eating. And power to weight is quite big in cycling. You're wearing lycra, and you just get kind of more conscious of what you're putting in your body. And it was almost like the norm to kind of talk about weight and, you'd hear riders be like, "Oh, I'm fat at the minute," or "I'm not gonna be going well because 'cause I'm fat." or like you'd do a training session and you'd try and get like eat the least amount of possible to get through the session. And I'd always be like on the scales every day, and my mood would depend on like the number on the scale. I think, it was one of those things that it just becomes the norm. And for a while it can be, it was good. Like I lost weight. I think I was like, I don't know, 59 kilo, which is quite light for someone of my size. And my performance was going up. Like I was training really hard. I'd lost weight and I was going really well. But then after a couple of years, my period just stopped. I started to get little injuries, little niggles. And just like mentally, it was just something that was always on my mind, like my weight and what I was eating. Um, so it played like a massive part in like cycling at the time, but a lot of people are like that within cycling. It is changing. And I think it's totally changed the last few years. It's all about high carbs now and fueling your body and, ensuring that your body has got enough carbs, to give you the best performance it can. I think is it Cameron Worth or something? He got the fastest Ironman leg in history on the bike a couple of months ago, and he rides for Ineos. I think he was taking like 200 grams of carbs an hour for that kind of effort. So it's totally flipped. But I remember, when I was cycling, it was like, not you basically were trying not to eat on the bike, even in racing. And I remember sometimes even being hungry in a race and thinking, no, I can't eat anything because I'm trying to like lose weight. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the
It's
headspace that I was in at the time.
yeah, yeah. I can see that. And I mean, it's flipped. It's flipped probably at that level, but I think it's still probably prevalent, even in like a sport like HYROX,
Yeah.
especially where running is a major factor as well. And there's that temptation to lose weight and maybe end up underfueled for all the work that's going on. So I think it's like an important topic to sort of make people aware of, at least.
Yeah.
Is there? You sort of touched on like you didn't have a period for a number of years, which is certainly one of the common things with like Red S. Um, is there anything else like that you noticed at the time? Like I guess like the niggling injuries, maybe stress fractures, I think are a factor.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that like you look back on and think, yeah, that was a sign? Or
I probably just like low mood, or just, yeah, not feeling great and not enjoying what I was doing. I think it was just like one of those things where I was tired a lot of the time, and just, I was training so hard and not resting properly and not giving my body the fuel that it needed to recover and perform the next day. I was doing really big weeks, 20, 25-hour weeks on the bike. And it was just like this vicious circle of just feeling like worse and worse.
yeah,
Um, but it's not until like even at the Olympics, like I can remember being in the Olympic Village, and they've got so many different food stores in there, it's absolutely insane. And I remember just looking like, right, where's the veggies, where's the fish, where's the chicken? And like having low carbs, even before the Olympics, like I was underfueled. Which, yeah, you just think about like, why was you doing that? But after that point, it was just like I kind of just realized like this isn't good. I need to start fueling better. And when I started with working with a proper like sports dietitian and also a sports psychologist, that started to get me out of the hole. And I realized, okay, like I need this food to help me perform. And once I started eating properly, I just felt amazing. I could train properly, I could recover, and that gives you then confidence to kind of stick with it. And then
mhm,
from that moment on, really, my period started to return, and everything changed. I think there's a lot of people that do have red S and they probably don't know about it. Even a lady after the weekend actually messaged me and said that from HYROX, she said that she'd just been diagnosed with red S, and because she chat with me. I think it's just the thing of like talking about it might help others like, realize, okay, maybe I'm like that as well. Maybe, I can get some help, get a nutritionist, dietitian to have a look at what I'm eating, how I'm fueling.
yeah, yeah. Was it quite quick? The benefits that you noticed from eating more, did it like the periods return quite quickly after that?
No, no, they didn't. Probably took like 2 years. I think even like when I like retired from cycling, they were still like a little bit erratic. Like I wouldn't have them every month, but they were there still.
Mhm.
Um, I think the periods, because there's so many, like you have so many deficiencies from not fueling properly, your body takes time to adjust um to kind of eating again. But I definitely noticed the difference in my performances and being able to recover, like pretty much after a month of doing it. Your body's just like, give me the carbs, these like make me feel good.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does make a massive difference.